forego the usual basic step by step on what you do inside Google Ads. So we are presuming here that you already have basic familiarity with Google Ads dashboard and how to set up the most basic type of campaigns. And the idea is to explore different paths and different types of thinking that you can have when you branch out from the basic functions for the dashboard, and how this can help you actually understand what your users are trying to do. So before we start, if you have any questions, feel free to just send a message on the chat and I'll address them later. Or if you have any pressing question, you might as well just jump into the microphone and let me know. Right? So let's begin. So what we'll see today, first we'll look into why Google Ads is more than Google Ads. We are going to look into what really matters beyond the basic functions of the Google Ads dashboard. And in terms of more actionable insights, we're going to look into how to find specific data and how to use that data for three very important instances. The first one is your landing page experience. The second is your competition strategies. And third one is your intent. And finally, we're going to look into some basic guidelines to help you become a better Google Ads manager. So why Google Ads is more than Google Ads? So the first thing we need to understand about this tool is that it is made to serve equally the user and the advertiser. Um, the important take about this is that when you look mainly at the functions that the Google Ads dashboard is showing to you, um, it's easy to fall into the perception that everything you should be caring about is the overall quality of your ads, but that's not true, because everything that Google is doing is let's say observing and collecting data from user behavior to to optimize the platform. So the thing about this is that not every data that you might need to understand the user end of the equation, not everything will be inside Google Ads. And it's important to know here that you must keep like an open view and understand different tools and different approaches to have a richer experience inside the platform. It's a very powerful tool, but it has some limitations. And when you understand those limitations, it'll make it easier for you to move forward and optimize your campaigns. What matters beyond the Google Ads dashboard? So this is a basic overview of the Google Ads dashboard. So you have the most basic settings when you put a campaign up, like your ad groups, your keywords. Maybe you're going to tweak your audiences through demographics and everything else. But that's not just it. Google Ads dashboard is going to give you a very controlled way to generate outputs, but it's not always going to give you the full picture of how your campaign is performing if you only look into those metrics that the dashboard is showing to you. In theory, that means that you can have a campaign that is performing really well, and yet this is not the ideal campaign for users or for your client and for whichever goal you are trying to achieve here. So let's look at an example here. This is a campaign that, when you look at the most basic metrics from the dashboard, it might look like a good campaign, right? So you see that you have a way above average CTR, so the click-through rate is quite high. Um, Remember that the average is, can be, depending on the industry, below 6%. So this is quite good. We have an average CPC of 878, which we can understand is quite reasonable comparing to the daily budget that was established here. When you look into the average position, you see that the campaign is performing really well. It's 1.1, and it's getting pretty much most of the impression share of this market. So it's almost 98%. This all seemed quite good. But what are the things that those metrics in the dashboard are not showing? So, for example, what is the goal of the advertiser? And what is your competition doing? How big is your market? Does your campaign actually match your goal intent? And are you standing out from the competition? And is your landing page working as it should? So this is just a few examples of things that you also need to worry to perform well, and you cannot easily read with one single metric inside Google Ads. So let's go and try to address some of these points and start looking into how we find specific data and how we use that data to optimize our campaigns. So the first one we're going to look into is your landing page experience. This is very important here because in the Google Ads management market, something that can be quite common is for managers to not have access to the landing page experience. So they do not have a say in what goes into the landing page. This is very common, for example, in within agency environments where agency have many clients and then hire different managers to take care of those accounts. Um, the thing here is that you will have very limited impact if you do not have a say on how the landing page should work. Let's be frank here, it's not everyone will have the possibility to actually have an input on the landing page. But if that's the case, you can also point out this to the agency you're reporting, for example, and you have to be upfront about those limitations and communicate that, oh, I don't have full access to this part of the campaign, so this might hurt our performance in the end. So at least you can be upfront about this. Considering that you have that access to having an input on the landing page, so how it should work. So the first thing is that you should have the keywords that are relevant to your business. This might be obvious pointing pointing it that way, but it's quite common to, let's say, quote unquote, fall in love with the brand and focus on what you think the brand is, and kind of misread the market and what is actually important to the market and to the customers inside that market. And second, it should have a functional user experience. So if you, you can have, for example, a web page that is fully optimized in terms of keywords, but if the UX of the landing page is not optimized, this can also hurt your performance on Google Ads. That we're looking to soon. So why is it important? So first, relevant to the keywords. Search pattern can be tricky. Okay, certain keywords they might seem like they are exactly from your market and relevant to your product or your service, but it's easy to fall into a trap and add keywords to the campaign that attracts the wrong kind of users. When that happens, and those users arrive in your page, they will quickly bounce it off. They will see that it's not what they're looking for, and they will leave. Google Ads will understand. So first Google and then Google Ads will understand that this is below than expected in terms of performance, and it's going to punish your quality score and therefore punish your overall campaign. So we have an example here. So we have the acronym OTP. If you put that on Google, you'll see that there's going to be a combination of very distinct meanings. So the first one is related to one-time password, while the second one is related to one true pairing, which is something that, if I'm not mistaken, comes from Japanese animation. Um, so you can imagine someone, if we are trying to have to attract users that are interested in one-time password, and we get the anime crowd, these people will definitely leave the page very fast, and this could hurt your landing page experience. So, how can you actually improve your keyword relevancy and not fall within those traps? There are many ways and there are many tools, but what I'd like to recommend is that you use a very robust tool like SEMrush and Ahrefs. Uh, those are those are tools that have a very in-depth analysis of keywords, and it shows you exactly the results that those keywords are going to produce, and it's going to help you prepare a campaign that won't fall in those traps that I previously mentioned. Of course, you need to update your landing page with those keywords before even starting your Google Ads campaign, because if if you only focus on updating, well, let's say you focus on doing the research and applying the research only into your Google Ad keyword group, that means it's going to be a disparity between the keywords that you have inside Google Ads and the ones that are on your landing page. So this is going to drop your ad relevancy, and Google will lower your quality score, and this will seriously hurt your performance. To overcome this, so you have to have high ad relevancy. Sorry, high ad relevancy. That means that you have to have the same set of keywords on your landing page, your keyword group from your ads, your headlines, and your description. This will help you have a high quality score. Moving on to the second point we mentioned about the landing page experience is that you should have a functional UX. So why is it important? Because quality score still matters. Google keeps doing updates on how the algorithm of Google Ads work, but still valid today for 2022, quality score still matters to a point that even if you have a lower budget than the competition and your budget is not good enough to compete in the bidding of certain keywords, you still have a chance of getting clicks, because Google wants to strike a balance in how much advertisings are paying against what are the kind of ads and the landing pages that are working for the users doing the search. So, for example, um, let's say that the advertiser number one have a max cost per click bid of $2 with a quality score of 10, which is the max. They can still perform well against an advertiser that has a higher CPC bid of $8, but a low quality score. So you might not always have control in terms of budget because there's always it can always have a competitor that is putting more money than you, but you can have control in your quality score, making all the checks to make sure that your landing page is delivering exactly what Google expects from you. So how do you improve your user experience? So this is actually quite a big subject, and we are just scratching the surface here. But one thing that you as a Google manager can do is to actually link and get access to a Google Analytics account to to address the performance of that landing page. So metrics such as the engagement rate are very important to understand if the users that you are driving to that page are behaving the way that you expect. And with Google Analytics, it's quite easy to separate people coming from your ad campaign from the people coming from other sources. So you can also compare those sources. So, for example, if you have an engagement rate of 60% from your Google Ads users, and that same landing page have a performance, let's say, of 85% of engagement rate, this is telling you that um, perhaps your landing page is working just fine, you have the right user experience, but this is something on your Google Ads and that you need to tweak it better. Whereas if you see that engagement rate is lower than expected in all instances, that means that there are parts of the UX that you can actually work to improve your landing page. So one other thing that you can do is to actually trace the steps from the headlines of your ads to the actionable part of your landing page. Count how many steps there are to them and understand if this is not too much of a hurdle to the user in terms of what is the expected outcome, what is the expected action that you expect from that particular user. Everything okay so far? Any questions, or we can move on? All right, let's move on then. So next, let's look into data from your competition strategies. Uh, Analyzing the competition has several benefits. It doesn't mean that you look into the competition to just copy them and try to achieve the same results that they are doing. This is a valid strategy, but you can also learn what they are doing so that you can try something different and try to stand out from them. In this case, we have both Google Ads and third-party tools with resources that can help us check into the competition. So what you should do in here. So first, like I said, stand out. You can look into your competition ads and try to understand what they are focusing. And from there, you can think of your strategy because this will impact um, different parts that you can tweak on your Google Ads dashboard. Let me just jump a little bit here. This is the Google search of Trello, which is work management app. Okay, let's just admit another user. Just a second. So Trello is a kind of workflow management tool, and these are the ads that jump in one of its instance. So you can see that we have competitors Monday and Team Flow and Rike. So when you look into the SERP, into the search engine result pages of those ads, you can see, for example, that Monday.com is focusing on positioning itself as a robust tool for any team size, whereas the other tool have have a different focus of trying to convert based on their free experiences, right? So one example of what kind of take you can get from here, you can, let's say, your strategy is that you also want to compete within the free plan market. So that means that you have to somehow beat those two advertisers. You can, of course, do the obvious, which is try to outbid them, which can not always be a reality. Or you can also keep digging and try to do something else. For example, in here, you can see that Reich is actually doing a little bit more than Team Flow, because you can see that there's an image right along the ad. So this is an image extension. So they offered something more, and this kind of visual image can draw the eye. I'm not trying to say that you have to think of Google Ads extensions as the only way of standing out, because you can also do that within the headlines, within your overall position, or even the keywords that you're using. Second, so you should validate your strategy, which is to compare the kind of results you get to make sure that you are going for the audience that works for you. So why are those 2 points important? So if you don't position yourself differently, you can easily lose to factors such as bid wars. So like you see in the example I just showed, if you just use the same kind of ad copy for free plans, which is, on the example, if one of them can have a bigger budget than you, then it's very hard to compete. This is the sort of thing that I mentioned before that are kind of out of your control, because if you if you don't have the budget, you don't have the budget, and there's nothing you can do on that end. So that's why if you can try to position yourself differently, it's always going to be something that is within your control. So how to actually improve your position? So um, this is another, let's say, another part of managing Google Ads that kind of jumps out of the actual use of the tool and goes into deeper into the complexity of marketing, right? But you can also leverage different tools to make research that can help you. So um, I personally use Ahrefs for that, but there are quite a lot of tools for this. It doesn't have to be like a heavy tool such as Ahrefs. So things like um, what's it called? Keywords everywhere or Ubersuggest. So these are more lightweight tools, but they still have deep content explorer analysis. The thing with this kind of research, you can actually research both your keywords and your competitors and try to see what kind of content those keywords are showing, not only on ads results, but also on organic results. Because this is going to give you insights in what the user behavior to those keywords are. And when the user is telling you what to do, this can actually help you to position yourself better. Doesn't matter if you're trying to match the competition or if you're going towards a different positioning. In terms of validating your strategy, so this is important because, like, similar to the example I gave before of using the wrong keyword that should target the wrong users. Um, some keywords, they might be familiar to your business, and yet they bring the wrong result, because again, what matters is what the user behavior is telling you, right? So the way that you validate your strategy is actually inside Google Ads. You can use the Google Ads auction insights. This is going to show you a list of um, what your competitor, how your competitors are performing stacked against you. The Before you go into actually analyzing your performance against the competition, this can actually validate if you are targeting the right market. Because something that Google Ads Auction Insights show to a lot of people is that they list competitors that are actually not your competitors. So if you find that there's a strange list over there, that means that you are attracting the wrong kind of users, and that you have to revise your whole strategy from the keyword level. So just a quick example of the Auction Insights page. And one important thing to notice about this, it takes time for Google Ads to collect enough data to actually present this to you. So a lot of factors can influence this. If you have a lower budget, it might take more time. If your market is a little bit more expensive, you have to wait. There's not much you can do regarding this. So if you click on Auction Insights and you see nothing, then that's what's happening. Like, it's nothing wrong. Google Ads just need more time to collect that information. Before we move to the next part, are there any questions so far? Right. Let's move on to the next bit then, which is your intent. So you remember this image that we showed at the beginning? This is the Google dashboard overview performance of a campaign, right? It seems like a good campaign, but you might be performing well inside Google Ads, but that doesn't mean you are actually performing well as an advertiser. That's not to say that those metrics are not important, because they are, but they don't give you the whole story. The first question you should ask yourself, even before starting to draw your campaign, is what do I want to achieve with those ads? Okay, you might be thinking that, okay, Google Ads have the goals option in your dashboard, and that's right. But the goals dashboard, they're kind of limited in terms of all the expected outcomes you can have from an advertising campaign. The the, the most problematic part of that goal tracking of Google Ads is that they don't show if the keywords of your campaigns are actually matching your intent. So, how should we do this? The first thing that I would like to address is that we should understand the concept of keyword business potential. So this is something completely external from Google Ads, but it's a topic that will definitely help you have have a better understanding of how to do your keyword planning. Keyword business potential is like a value that you can attribute to a certain keyword related to your business. We can separate them into three different categories. So the first one is like market niche keywords. So these are the keywords that they are relevant to your business, but they might not be necessarily tied to converting to selling your product or selling a service or whatever is your end goal. So, for example, tennis racket might be relevant to a vendor of tennis shoes, but it still has quite a few steps to the core of the business. Whereas number two, which are potential keywords, they are closely tied to your business end goal, but they might lack intent comparing to what you're trying to do in terms of conversion. So, for example, tennis shoes, on the example of the tennis shoes vendor, it might bring a potential customer, but it might also bring people that are just generally interested in tennis shoes. And finally, number three they are the converting keywords. So these group of keywords, they have a much clearer intent tied to what you're trying to achieve. So if the end goal of my campaign is to actually do sales of tennis shoes, then the keyword buy tennis shoes is like the optimal converting keyword that I should pay attention to. Going back to your intent and what you should do, now that you understand the concept of the keyword business potential, so you have to match your goals with conversion goals, bidding strategies, and audience selection inside Google Ads. So, for example, if you perhaps you're not looking for specific sales, perhaps you're looking for uh, creating a lot of brand awareness for your product or service. That means that you want to have a lot of presence, and that translates to a lot of impression in terms of the Google Ads metrics, right? So if if you decide that that's what you want to do, you start with preparing a landing page that is optimized to brand exposure and creating brand awareness. Then you jump into Google Ads and you create a conversion goal that is to have high traffic, and you can have a bidding strategy like target impression share or maximizing clicks. This is debatable. And likewise, you can target a large spectrum of audiences that perhaps not all of them have the intended sales and goal, but exposing the brand to them can also be important. I like to give this example because it's kind of common to advertise expecting to convert to sales or just leads, but there are a different array of choices that you can have in terms of goals, and Google Ads is actually quite tuned for this, but you need to understand what your goal is first. With with all those connections properly done, it's time to actually match your keywords with everything else. And second, so before I move, let me address a question here from Kamal. So is it better practice to use longer and specific keywords to really match our intent? Um, Longer in I think you're asking this because of the example that I gave of buy tennis shoes, but this is not the only example, right? So, for example, another example that is a short keyword that can be aligned with your goals. I was talking about the example of driving a high impression share for having brand awareness. So the most basic keyword that such a campaign should target is a branded keyword. So is the brand name. So this is the brand name does not show intent in general, but it's perfectly tied to the goal of that campaign. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Okay, moving on. So let's look into why is it important to do those matches. I'm being kind of shallow here because the amount of importance that every bit of those points I mentioned, like conversion goals and bidding strategies, audience size, it can be quite deep. But just to give you an example, is it's because this is a very common trap where while beginning to use Google Ads. It's easy to spend the budget and perform well on the surface, but not deliver the right intent. So, like the the image that I showed before, where we have like good metrics like CTR and high impression share. Let's say that the original goal of that campaign was to drive sales. Well, that particular campaign is not showing if we are achieving that, right? It could, but in that specific case, it's not showing. And also, it's easy to have high performing keywords that don't deliver the right intent. So we're being a little bit more specific here in terms of looking at Google Ads metric because most of the daily management work that a manager deals within Google Ads dashboard is to look into individual keyword performance and search term performance and to try to fine tune and understand what are the group of keywords that are performing well. But it's not kind of one action for one reaction. You can have, for example, a keyword that has low cost and high click through rate. But if you don't match what you're trying to do with those keywords and you look for the data that is going to validate your goal, that performance means nothing, right? So another example is in the case of we have low cost, high CTR keyword, but we go to Google Analytics and we want to look if that keyword is the one um, driving the creation of leads, so registration for email marketing or something. If we don't check if that keyword is driving that particular path, and I know that my goal was to create that conversion, then that high performance on those metrics means nothing, right? So how do you match your goals? So first, you have to make sure that your landing page experience delivers that intended goal. This is closely tied to the first category that we look. An example is if you're looking for registrations, you have to make sure that your landing page has a convenient path to registered users, or perhaps offer something in return for that particular registration. You have to make sure that your bidding strategy is aligned. Um, Google Ads have the option of manual bidding strategies, but in the later years, Google developed a lot the intelligence of the automatic bidding systems. Mm, this is good, but it also kind of takes off a little bit of your control, right? And the way that you can regain a little bit of that control again is to do that whole path of matching your intentions with your landing page with Google Ads metrics. So an example is you might try three different bidding strategies. You might try maximize clicks and manual cost per click and maximize conversions, right? You might compare them and see that, okay, maximize conversions is giving me a better cost per click, but are they actually converting? It's counterintuitive to think that the maximized conversion strategy is not going to convert, but it's it's and like anything with artificial intelligence, it depends a lot on what the user behavior is and how that user behavior is feeding the intelligence of the bidding strategy against the keywords in the market that you're trying to do. So there's no one single strategy that is going to work here. You have to experiment it and you have to compare. And similarly, like the idea of testing extensively, this also applies to Google Ads audience. Um, it's okay to even to start the campaign and with a selection of audiences. And again, this is a part that Google improved a lot in the later years, but there's still room for improvement. And certain audiences and certain markets work better than others. And again, the only way that you can do is to test, but making sure that everything is aligned and matching in terms of intent and metrics. Otherwise, if you don't do this high scrutiny, it's kind of hard to just point to the audience and say that the audience is wrong. So how to match your keywords and goals. So this is why I wanted to show the concept of the three keyword business potential categories, because doing a previous study with, again, robust tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, or like even Google Keyword Planner can help you a little bit, but not as deep as like the bigger tools. When you have that understanding, you can start grouping your keywords into those categories and making sure that you create campaigns specific for for those goals, right? Um, you also, well, sorry, I just said that. So divide campaigns into different goals. So this is not a must, but it's a nice best practice to do, which is to group converting keywords separating from niche market keywords. Because if you can kind of split your budget into different campaigns and segment those campaigns to different expected outcomes, now it's much easier to read that data and understand if you if you were getting the results that you were expected. Any questions regarding matching your goals and intent? Okay, we can move forward to the last bit, which is just some basic guidelines to become a better Google Ads manager. So the the lesson that I'd like to share here is that it's because I've been seeing a lot in the Google Ads management market that people are really focused on doing small tweaks inside Google Ads dashboard and just use the Google Ads tool isolated from from other, let's say, sciences and other branches of marketing. Like I mentioned before, Google Ads is powerful but has its limitations, and the moment that you start to address those limitations and kind of set up like a stack of software and practices that can help you deliver better campaigns, that's definitely going to make you a better Google Ads manager. It goes into kind of like a shift of thinking, right? So one thing that you have to understand is that you have to treat each new campaign and each new client differently. Just doing batches of the same kind of settings is not going to work, because Google Ads is a powerful AI tool, but ultimately it is serving human beings. That means that the behavior of certain markets, certain group of keywords might not be the one that you are used to work in your past campaigns. And the only way that you can address this is that you come fresh into each and every campaign and study the market, study the keywords, study the competition, and try to understand what are the particular things about those points that are going to affect your campaign. Then you can go into the dashboard and start to draw the kind of settings that you think will serve that specific market. Remember that for every action inside the dashboard, you are not going to get just one single reaction. This is going to to drive many parallel reactions, kind of like a sometimes like a short blanket idea that you cannot have everything into full performance. That means your optimization needs to take into account what are your priorities. So just so we can kind of demystify the metrics performance, there could be a well performing Google Ads campaign with high cost per click. There might be a good campaign with a very low click through rate, because in the end, it matters what are you trying to achieve with the campaign. So keep that in mind instead of just obsessing with maximizing all the metrics inside the Google Ads dashboard. The third guideline is to learn with your users. So even with a lot of previous research, the, the the functioning of Google Ads is highly organic, because people are doing searches depending on very different kind of influences, right? You never know how like world events can actually affect your searches. And there might be something that went viral that has a similar search term that could affect your keyword. So the only way that you can make sure that your campaign is always functional is to keep a close watch on the perform, of course, all the metrics, but specifically into the search terms. Um, if the case is that you are using exact match keywords, then of course you don't have to keep that close watch, because you establish a very controlled environment where only the exact keywords are delivering clicks. But if you use like broad match keywords, you never know what people could type in combination with your keywords that might create a phrase that is going to trigger your ad. So you have to keep a close watch into it and tweak your keywords, and perhaps add new negative terms that could be hurting your campaign or things like that. So remember, it's alive like every day. Number four is to leverage the abundance of tools available today. So I mentioned a few here, and I must say that I'm very biased towards them because I kind of familiarized myself after experiment with a few, and that doesn't mean that those tools are going to be ideal for you. The size of the market is quite interesting today, and I encourage everyone to experiment with those different tools, because one or the other might have a specific functionality or even just the kind of user interface that works best for you. So if you'd like to try some of the tools that I mentioned here, or even other ones I can give you later, try it, because you never know what kind of outcome you'll have with those different tools. That's it. Thank you very much for attending today. I really hope that with this presentation, you can actually understand a little bit more about the nuances that goes into how data is affected and how you should collect that data outside of Google Ads and bring that towards Google Ads to improve your campaigns. That's it.